Orengo is the governor of Siaya County and one of the top leaders in Azimio. He joins us now to look at the demands by the Azimio leadership. Good evening, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Now, these 5 demands that were read today by Raila Odinga. 1, cost of living, electoral justice, inclusive government, sacking of civil servants, and he says the demonstrations shall continue until all these are addressed. First question, how do we know they've been addressed?
Well, I've been, there are simple questions to answer, like the one on electoral justice. In opening the servers, and if you read Article Section 44 of the Elections Act, it's quite clear that there's a process for auditing elections during and even after elections. So in order to address that issue, you cannot sit on a table and discuss it. I think the most realistic way to address it is to open the servers, because under Section 44 of the Elections Act, there's a procedure there that would enable us, go through that process. Now, secondly,
So what you want here is just a post-election audit of the process?
It's a post-election audit, but which will give accountability. Mm-hmm. The Elections Act was framed in such a way that one would be able to test the transparency of an election and be accountable to the people of Kenya that the results of that election protects and defends their sovereignty. And Section 44 is very meticulous and giving access to servers, to stakeholders, and more particularly the political parties.
Your Excellency, why this fixation with the server? Why not ask for the physical ballot, for the physical Forms 34B, which are what was used by the Electoral Commission to tally the results?
Let me tell you, it's so easy to interfere with the paper documents. That is so easy. And, during the past regime of elections, interference with even election returns when they were in a paper form, in between a polling station and the counting center, or even at the national tallying center, all through those stages is so easy to interfere with paper documents. But the transactions that are recorded in servers, real time, to erase it would be absolutely impossible and difficult. And you remember during the election petition of 2017, when we wanted the servers to be opened, somebody remarked in court, that the people in France were asleep, so we could not have access to it. But I can tell you that record, even now, because the law requires that those records are kept for a while, if they were open today, and the courts have said time and time again that anybody who has won an election should not be afraid for an inspection of the return of the elections. So I do not understand why President Ruto would fear examination of not only the election returns, but more particularly the electronic returns and the record of that election.
You asked for the same at the Supreme Court. You're one of the lawyers representing the petitioners.
Yes.
You were granted access to the server.
No, we are not granted access to the server. It was a very limited access. During the process of an election petition, the number of days that you're required to file, and there's an answer, and the trial, and the verdict, within 14 days is very difficult. But I think the Supreme Court has let the people of Kenya down because every time, even in 2017, they gave us only a limited access to the servers. One of the things that means then that, the only way you can question an election properly in Kenya is by looking at the process, but not looking at, the actual result of that election, the details. Because that would take time, but because we are digital in respect of, transmission of election results, that should not be very difficult.
Let's move to the next issue, still on the issue of electoral justice. You're demanding the reinstatement